Vice President of the National Assembly Dr Xaysomphone Phomvihane was presenting a report containing the National Assembly's comments towards the socio-economic development and state budget plans of the government at the 7th Ordinary Sessions of the National Assembly's 7th Legislature, which opened on Monday, the 7th of July.
The National Assembly, or NA, is very concerned about implementation of the socio-economic development and state budget plan of the government for the rest of the year, following the revenue shortfall since last fiscal year.
เสนอให้รัฐบาลเอาใช้จัดตั้งปฏิบัติเป็นหูปธรรมต่อวิการจุดสูงจำนวนหนึ่งของรัฐบาลในท้องถิ่นที่กำหนดอยู่ในมติกองประชุมครั้งที่ 9 ของพรรคก็คือเป้าหมายสหสาธารณรัฐเพื่อการพัฒนา MDGs.
Dr. Xaysomphone said the government needed to enhance its efforts in collecting revenue by ensuring enterprises paid taxes based on the country's laws while limiting financial leaks and extravagance in budget expenditures. He urged the government to ensure that all sectors and companies pay taxes before the end of the fiscal year to reduce the financial burden on the government.
1. ของเขตเศรษฐกิจสืบต่อแก้ไขผลกระทบจากโครงการลงทุนต่อกับการดำรงชีวิตของประชาชนที่ถือโครงการให้สอดคล้องกับทิศทางนโยบายของพรรครัฐบาล
Dr. Xaysomphone said the government may be aware of the achievements, challenges, and what needs to be done to ensure the set targets can be achieved in 2014-2015. The NA urged the government to impose clear measures and mechanisms to collect the revenue and deal with rising debts, including those owed to prior private investment projects that have not been collected in the government's plan for payment.
ในกรอบจำกัดที่สุดเพื่อเป็นการหลีกเลี่ยงหนี้สินที่จะตามมา
Dr. Xaysomphone said it was critical to identify sources of income and improve coordination between relevant sectors in Vientiane and the province when it comes to revenue collection. The National Assembly also called for the government to impose clear measures and mechanisms in supplying labor for the commercial production sector. The NA found that it has been a challenge for the government in past years to supply enough labor for the private sector. Concerning the education and sports sector, the National Assembly proposed the government work harder in education reform, focusing on ensuring vulnerable people have access to education. The National Assembly urged the government to speed up health reform by focusing on human resource development and ensuring doctors follow their ethics when curing people.
ซึ่งเห็นว่ารัฐบาลก็ได้รับรู้บรรดาปัญหาต่างๆซึ่งเป็นจุดอ่อนของโครงข่ายในการจัดตั้งปฏิบัติในช่วงปีผ่านมา
Dr. Xaysomphone said the government needed to review development projects to ensure that the standards of the projects is proportionate with the amount of funding the government has spent on them. In past years, the NA found that some projects were disproportionate with the amount of funding the government spent. The National Assembly requested the government work harder in cooperation with local authorities, encouraging their participation in inspecting development projects operated in their provinces. In general, the National Assembly praised the government for its efforts in maintaining the country's economic growth, stable exchange rate, and security to facilitate socio-economic development.